How do you deal with negative emotions and a lot of overwhelming emotions in any situation, but especially when you're going through change and when you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing and you're not sure how you should proceed, you're not seeing any evidence of change, and you kind of feel like quitting because it doesn't seem to be working for you? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video, and my spoiler alert is this. It's okay to feel your emotions. You're supposed to feel them, but they might be telling you things that you're not aware of. And so I'm going to clarify that for you so that you hopefully feel a little bit better. Let's talk about feeling better. Seems like the most obvious thing in the world, right? But here's the thing. We're not trained to feel good at all. We're trained to achieve things. We're trained to do better, to not cry, to just be brave boys and girls. But we're not trained to feel better. What does that mean? It means that the dialogue that you're having in your head is kinder than it was a minute ago. At least to me, that's what feeling better usually means. Because the chatter in our minds and our heads is constant. It only shuts down during meditation or when you sleep. But in between those, it's just constant. And usually that stream of thoughts is not very nice. You hear all sorts of things that drive you nuts throughout the day. And so in today's society, it's a pretty radical thing to have the notion around feeling good as the most important thing in your life. That's not normal, is it? Like, shouldn't you just make more money and be more active and do more things? What do you mean feeling good? But that's what it's all about. There's no point in doing lots of things unless you feel good, because it doesn't feel good doing all those things unless you feel good. And we have this backward way of thinking where we think that feeling good is the result of being certain things or having certain things or doing certain things. Now, feeling good could be the result of being things. I second that. Being joyous, being free, that usually leads to you feeling good. But here's the thing. You can feel good without having any reason to do so. How do you do that? By thinking better thoughts. You can literally think yourself to happiness, but it requires effort. And you have to be mindful of what those thoughts are telling you. One of you asked a question about experiencing intense grief and crying during Blessing of the Energy Centers, one of Dr. Joe's most beloved meditations. And this woman said that she just couldn't really do the meditation because she was so overwhelmed by the negative emotion that she was having, and that she couldn't feel elevated emotions because of that experience. And my suggestion to that would be, don't do that meditation. It clearly doesn't feel good for you right now. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it for the rest of eternity, but what I am saying is that right now it triggered something in you that doesn't make you feel good. And if we can agree that feeling good is the most important thing because it heals you, it grounds you, it puts you in the right state of mind for you to do all the other things that you want to do, then Botec is not the right choice for you right now because it's not going to help you. Equally, whatever it is that you're doing, unless it's your actual physical job that you can't quit in this moment, don't do it. Or if you can't stop doing that thing, at least try to think about it in a different way. I'll take myself as an example. When I was sitting trying to meditate in the beginning, I was covered in eczema, I was anxious as fuck, I couldn't do anything. I sat down and my mind was racing and it was really hard. And my thoughts were telling me all sorts of things about why I couldn't do it and why I shouldn't do it and why it's better just to run and do anything else than what I'm doing. In that moment, I learned slowly, but I learned how to stop and tell myself other things. So instead of just going and running with those thoughts that were running around in my mind and running the whole show, I stopped and I said, you know what? You're actually doing all right now. Even if it feels uncomfortable, I know that you're okay. I know that you can sit for 1 more minute. I know that this is going to help you. And if you just trust me for a little while, I'll show you what this can lead to. This is the solution. It has worked for so many others before you, and it will work for you too. This was literally the conversation that I was having in my mind. And slowly it started to calm me down, to just get me into that place where I was able to change my behavior and believe in my future. The other question that I got was, how do you deal with intense emotion? And what do you do with all those emotions that have been stored from the past? To that, I would say you probably have to let them out. I spent nearly a year crying all over London, in the park, in my apartment, in the grocery store, in the street, wherever I was, I couldn't stop crying. And it wasn't like a hysterical crying, but I was crying a lot of the time. It just wouldn't stop until it stopped one day. And whatever that is for you, if you're pissed off and really angry all the time, that might be a little problematic. But whatever that emotion is, whether it's shame or grief or guilt or sadness, then just let it out. You don't have to take it out on other people, but you can let it out. So how do you do that? You meditate, because that just clears your mind and shows you what your mind is doing and how you could possibly talk to yourself in a different way and therefore feel a little lighter. Second of all, move. There was a reason why I had this strong urge to go on walks when I began to heal. It was because I think my whole being just needed to shake it off and let go some of that anxious energy and fill myself up with, nature and all the good vibes that you get when you're outdoors. So move. If you can, sweat it out. Go dance. I did this 7 rhythm dance, I think it was called, where you dance in whichever way works for you to really cool music. I did that for a while because it felt like I could shake parts of my body that felt stagnant or uncomfortable. And that was really helpful for me. So you can approach this in so many ways, but don't think that your emotions are wrong. They're just guiding you and telling you that whatever you're thinking might not be in line with what your inner being or, source thinks about you. I think that's the easiest way to understand it. If you keep thinking negative thoughts about yourself, how horrible you look, how pathetic you are, how wrong everything you're doing and saying and being is, then Source doesn't agree with that at all. And when you have the separation between what you're thinking and what Source thinks, which is just being your biggest fan all day long, then that's an uncomfortable position to be in. Which is why it feels so good when you start thinking better thoughts, because that separation just vanishes when you are thinking lovely thoughts about yourself and Source, God, whatever you want to call that, agrees with you. Then you are in touch with Source, that life force that flows through you anyway. And when that happens, it's just pure magic and a blissful feeling. There's nothing wrong with so-called negative emotions, but they do tell you that you might be going off chart, off your path. If you feel lots of negative emotion, let it out. But if your thoughts are going there and you keep scratching that wound and thinking thoughts that are victimizing and hurtful and unnecessary, then I might rethink that. Because those are two different things. It's one thing that old stuff is kind of bubbling up to the surface and coming out. And it's another thing if you keep thinking thoughts that just add more of those negative emotions into your body and your experience. I hope that makes any sense to you. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. And you can get my meditation guide from the link in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm sending you lots of love.